850-900.
Told Liz before the show not to play anything from before she was born. I'm pretty sure
this and LL Cool J from earlier was from before when she was born.
this is from way before she was born. Hey, we're going to talk a little Miami Hurricane football. Danny Money, CanesInsight.com, joins us here on the Sports Fix as he does each and every Thursday here on the show. Danny, good morning. How you doing, buddy?
Great. How you guys doing?
Hey, doing well, man. Big win for Miami this past weekend against Georgia Tech. Big game, especially for Mike James.
Yes.
When you talk about Mike James, Duke Johnson in the backfield there, it almost feels like if Jedd Fisch wanted to use him in that way, you almost have sort of a, for lack of a better term, like a thunder lightning type situation there with a bigger, stronger physical back, and then obviously a guy that can take it to the house from anywhere on the football field.
Well, we talked about this last week that a lot of Miami Hurricane fans wanted to see us get back to that I formation, using Maurice Higgins, who's a very good fullback, using Mike James out of that formation where he's more comfortable rather than always being in the shotgun, in that hurry-up where he's not as effective running. And he had a phenomenal game. He won a community award earlier in the week, and then to have a game like that, really good week for him. And he just looks so much quicker than he did last year with that turf toe. He just looks like a whole new back. He's always had the power, but when he has that quickness, he can make things happen like he did against Georgia Tech. So great performance for him. Duke Johnson, you saw him lined up all over the field, and like you said, it's a very potent combination, but really the key is Mike James returning to form.
The on-the-field performance obviously was impressive, but to me it was the heart that this Miami Hurricane team showed. They were up, 17 there. They blew that lead. Then they found themselves behind, 19 points or something like that, and battled back and took it to overtime and ended up winning on the road. So many things that could have prevented them from winning. I think in past years would have prevented them from winning, but the fact that they hung in there, kept battling, and kept believing, I truly believe that was maybe one of the first signs of the personality of Al Golden kind of being demonstrated by his team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it couldn't have gone better for Al Golden in terms of using this as sort of a teaching moment, showing what their hard work could lead to. Starting off 19-0, Hurricanes jumped up on top. Everything kind of went right for them. Steve Morris hit a deep ball to Philip Dorsett, which was an emphasis. They hadn't really gotten that part of the game going early in the season. So everything was going right. Then there was a 36-0 run by Georgia Tech, who, you don't want to be behind against because they can eat the clock. So they were really up against the wall at that point. Drove them back, or Stephen Morris really got hot. They came back. Miami actually missed a field goal, a 22-yard field goal on a drive that would have tied the game. And I thought that was really the moment where they showed their toughness, because instead of kind of going into the tank and saying we blew opportunity, they came right back and drove 91 yards to tie the game and eventually win the game. So tremendous performance, and also a good indication of the conditioning of the team. Al Golden's been preaching conditioning since he got here, and he always says, I don't want this to be punitive. I want the players to appreciate that we're doing this for a reason, to win ball games. And in a game like that where they perform so strongly in the fourth quarter and overtime, I think his message really gets across that much better.
Danny, what defensively? I know there was some good, good start, and you think that is going well. And why all of a sudden a little collapse in there in the middle? What can be done to improve that so it will not happen again?
Yeah, well, some of it was self-inflicted as far as turnovers. There was a fumble by Philip Dorsett. There was some poor special teams play, a long return, and it just sort of started going from there. And also, there's a young defense lacking a little bit of talent as far as the upperclassmen. So they're not going to be that kind of dominant defense this year, at least at this point in this year. So they just got to work on protecting the ball, not shooting themselves in the foot, and giving them every chance to have a good performance, because they're not at the point where they can overcome those kind of mistakes consistently.
Danny Money, CanesInsight.com, our guest here on the Sports Fix, talking Miami Hurricane football. Hey, two names, man, that you have to be a recruit, Nick, to sort of know outside of the Miami area there. Devon Johnson and Ben Jones, a couple of guys, I believe, in that 2008 recruiting class, one from Northwestern High School, the other one is from Booker T. Washington High School. Sort of forgotten guys, or guys that you at one point were maybe ready to write off as a fan of the football program, but each of those guys stepped up in a major way when needed this past weekend up at Georgia Tech.
Well, Chris mentioned how this was a great game for Al Golden, his personality, his kind of message getting across. those two guys are a perfect example. They were signed by Shannon in that huge 2008 class. Ben Jones was actually a teammate of Ja'Cory Harris, one of the many players signed from Miami Northwestern High School. Devon Johnson, a teammate of Brandon Harris at Booker T. Washington, both state championship teams. So they were the forgotten men even since high school. They were kind of just the lower-ranked players in those groups. They stuck with it. A lot of rumors that they would transfer, or they would be asked to leave, and they were just kind of afterthoughts really throughout their entire tenure here. But they kept working. They improved considerably under Coach Golden, and when he gave them the opportunity to play, they performed. So, again, his message, all the stuff that he's been saying now has some substance behind it, because he can say, look, if you work hard and stick with it, you might not be getting the playing time now, but if you keep improving, keep earning trust in practice and in the weight room, you can have a day like Devon Johnson had or Ben Jones had. And those guys figure to be players moving forward, especially Devon Johnson.
One thing that we haven't seen from Miami here recently is consistency. Not this season, not in prior seasons. And Miami's always kind of been good for, at least over the last couple of years, coming home and laying an egg in a game that they inexplicably should be able to win. NC State obviously was thought to be a decent team at the beginning of the year. I think they've shown that they're maybe not as good as some people had expected them to be. But the fact that this is very reminiscent of other similar situations where Miami's had some good wins and then come back and laid an egg at home has got to scare Miami fans a little bit, doesn't it?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is deja vu for Canes fans. Usually after these big wins where we think the team's turned the corner, they'll go home or go on the road and really just have an underwhelming performance against a quality team that they might have underrated. And NC State would fit the bill. They've won plenty of games. I think they won 11 games in the past 14 or 15. They're a solid ball club. And really their strengths sort of play into Miami's weaknesses, especially at the quarterback position, that Mike Glennon, tall guy, pocket passer, can really spin the ball if he's given a clean pocket. He actually went out to the Manning Passing Academy as a counselor with Geno Smith, Matt Barkley, Heisman candidate quarterbacks, and they said that he spun the ball better than any of them in that camp setting. Now, where he struggles is when he gets a little bit of pressure, especially inside pressure, because he's not the most athletic guy, 6'6", not that mobile. So he really challenged Miami's pass rush and Miami's cornerbacks that have been a weakness for the past few years. Miami's made a lot of mediocre to good quarterbacks look great. And it happened earlier this year with Trace Reddick at Boston College, had a career day. So Miami, the focus for Miami is making sure that he feels uncomfortable and that he's not, operating with impunity from the pocket.
Danny, one of the things that all head coaches got to look out for after a big win like that, as you said, coming back home against NC State, don't look ahead. I know you got that big trip to Chicago to play Notre Dame. Those kids kind of could be looking ahead to that, knowing that NC State maybe not exactly the team they thought they were.
Absolutely. And in truth, this NC State game is a more important game. Strictly because Miami right now is 2-0 in the ACC.
True. They
win this NC State game, they're now 3-0 in the ACC, and looking at a huge showdown with Virginia Tech, no matter what happens in that Notre Dame game. So this game, as far as winning the Coastal Division and potentially competing for an ACC championship, is the more important game. Not to mention the fact that if they win this game, they'll have that much more momentum going into the Notre Dame game. So that certainly is a concern. It's a noon game, so the crowd's not going to be as amped as it would be for a 3:30 or night game. So, they can't really rely on the crowd for energy early on. So they're really going to have to come out strong and come out focused, because this is probably, in my opinion, this is the most important game of the Al Golden era to date, just because of what it means in the ACC and what it means in terms of getting away from the habits that have doomed you in the past that Chris alluded to earlier.
There'll be a big difference between 4-1 and 3-2. Should Miami win or lose this football game. Very, very important game against NC State this weekend. Danny Money, CanesInsight.com. Our guest each and every Thursday talking Miami Hurricane football. Check out the website, CanesInsight.com, for the best coverage and best information on Miami Hurricane sports. As always, Danny, appreciate your time, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Coming up next, we turn our attention, keep it in college football, but we go north to Tallahassee. The Seminoles, big win last weekend over Clemson. Are they back? I'm ready to say they are. We'll discuss it with Ira Schofel of the Tallahassee Democrats. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Sports Fix on ESPN Radio.
Hi, this is Tom Collette.